Hi, Ron here from Military Images with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. I'm coming off a weekend, a crazy weekend in Franklin, Tennessee, at one of the nation's best Civil War collector shows. It's been going on for years, and it is a great environment to be part of if you're a collector. It's not only for photograph collectors, you will find all kinds of relics, bullets, belt buckles, weapons of all kinds, uniforms, books, paper, just about anything you can imagine. As one collector told me this weekend, he had never seen, never realized that there was so much material that survives from the Civil War period. And the great thing about a show like Franklin, you can show up, you can tour it as if you're in a museum. And if you like something and you've got the ability to buy it, you can make that happen too. So they're really great shows. After the show, and I have to confess, I'm still on a little bit of a buzz. The show ended just hours ago. And so I'm still replaying all the sort of the greatest hits of the last 3 days in my mind. That first day is the dealer setup day where we're all running around and getting our table set up, saying hello to everybody, and then shopping. Second day is where the public is in for the first time. So we're meeting and greeting old friends and new friends, sharing information, etc. And then yesterday is when we're getting into the final wrap up and then saying our goodbyes until the next show. So over the last hours, I've been thinking about why these shows are important to me and why do I go to them? And so there's really four main reasons that keep me going, keep me attending. And I've been going for, 30 years or so now. One of them, and something I alluded to early on, was meeting with collectors. The opportunity to be able to catch up with folks who have a similar passion, that same interest. They want to talk about the images. You want to talk about images, and you're all in one place having that experience. And as you know, when you're in an in-person situation, you're moving around in different groups. There's verbal communication, there's nonverbal communication. You're also at the same time interacting around tables of dealers. So the dynamics are unique to what you might expect in an in-person environment. So I'm not saying it's any better or worse than going and having a conversation online. It's just very different. So that idea of having that proximity and conversation with collectors while you're in the same place, it's a really neat experience. So the second one is just getting educated. We're all students of the Civil War, and most of the most successful collectors that I know consider themselves students. Sure, some of them have risen to become authorities and have all kinds of knowledge, but even those who are the most advanced in the hobby, they are always learning something new. And no matter what show I go to, I always come away with new knowledge that I didn't know about. And that's gleaned from talking to my fellow collectors, talking to dealers, and interacting with the images themselves. So this leads to point number 3, the opportunity to hold images. There is no substitute, I think, for a Civil War show. Sure, you can go to antique shops to hold, physically inspect images. You can go to other flea markets and places like that. And sure, you'll find them and you'll be able to see them. But being at a Civil War show where you've got numerous tables of photo dealers with their cases where you can open the cases and look at the photographs, get a sense for how they react to the light, get a sense for what the emulsion looks like on an ambrotype or the slight tin type denting that you might see, or the cut edges of a carte de visite and the way that the albumin connects with the light and has a little bit of a sheen. All of those things are not something that you can see unless you're really having that physical experience, because that's how they were intended to be seen initially. So again, I'm not knocking the digital experience. It's wonderful, but there's not a substitute for having that physical experience. So last but not least, I'm there in connection with the magazine to scan images from collectors. And of course, as that's happening, I'm getting their ideas. I'm getting information about what they learned. I'm getting their understanding of the images that they're sharing with me. All of this is, in my mind, it's priceless. So those scanned images, some number of them are going to make their way into future issues of the magazine, so you all can have an experience of seeing them as well. So I wanted to give you these thoughts while they're still fresh in my mind. If you're someone who is new to Civil War collecting, or someone who has grown up collecting images and has not been to a show, I highly recommend finding one. If you're in the Tennessee area, the Franklin Show is always held the first weekend in December, but they're all over the country. You can find them Gettysburg, Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio, that is, Richmond, Virginia, all over the place, Washington, D.C. Check them out. You can find them. And I recommend get to a show, check it out, have those experiences with fellow collectors, have that experience of being educated right there at the show, have the experience of holding images and inspecting them. And if you're hanging out with me, I'll scan your images and we can tell stories about those precious photographs in future issues of Military Images magazine. So thank you very much. Until the next episode, happy trails.